What's up, ladies and gentlemen of YouTube? Tomo2304 here, bringing you a review of the latest chapter of Fairy Tail. Recently managed to catch up on this series, and yeah, it's pretty good. I understand it quite well. So at the moment we're in the middle of the Grand Magic Games arc, and the last chapter saw Lucy get the proverbial crap beaten out of her by Minerva, one of the members of Sabertooth, and a new member who's only really just, well, not a new member, but she's only just appeared in the Grand Magic Games after settling the fight between Natsu and Gemma. So yeah, Lucy gets beaten up quite badly, to the point where she's in need of some serious medical attention. Natsu and Grey help her. They take Lucy to the sickbay, but not a lot happens really at the beginning of this chapter, 292. Basically, Minerva's just taunting the members of Fairy Tail. Then we see the rest of Sabertooth come in, and you know they're all a bunch of arseholes, really. You know, these guys are I wouldn't say they're really the typical. They're not really the villain faction of this arc so much. They're sort of the rivals. I mean, they're obviously not the nicest people in the world, but the villains are more probably the higher-ups who are working for Zeref. But that's not important right now. What's important right now is that Fairy Tail now hate Sabertooth. As we see, Urza says that they've made enemies of the worst possible guild to piss off. Those are her words, not mine. Sabertooth's Sting looks at this with a rather amused grin. And then we see from the stands that Kagura, from Mermaid Heel, I think, is watching that. So that makes me think that eventually Kagura is going to help Urza against Sabertooth, perhaps, even though she hates Jelal, and Urza doesn't hate Jelal. But I think they'll probably settle that dispute eventually. So Lucy's banged up, she's lying in bed, she's pretty much out of it. Juvia and Mira Jane arrive. Basically Fairy Tail B arrives, because, you know, they're still part of the same guild. But Lucy eventually wakes up. She's upset that she lost, although Happy gives her keys back. So yeah, no one likes Sabertooth. But then Master Makarov comes in, and he says that according to the rules, Fairy Tail A and B have got to merge and choose 5 people out of A and B to put them together. This is due to Raven Tail's earlier disqualification for cheating with the fight against Laxus. Because there's an odd number of teams now, the pairings for the battle portion of the tournament are now a bit of a problem. So they had to just basically choose the 5 strongest members and put them together. Also, unfortunately, Fairy Tail's new team has to go by the lowest points they had, which was 35, which is pretty terrible. So, yeah, they decide to choose their 5 players. Now, while the 5 people were probably fairly obvious, I don't really think it's the best choice. I mean, most of them are the best choice. You get Natsu, that was obvious. Grey, Urza, Gajeel, and Laxus. You know, that's pretty powerful. I don't think Grey should be there. Really, it should probably be Mira Jane, because I'm pretty sure she's stronger than Grey. But, I mean, the reason they've got Grey there is because the battles between Fairy Tail and Sabertooth were pretty, were fairly easy to, predict who was going to be fighting who. So that's why Grey's there, and you get a pretty cool picture of the big spread of the 5 Fairy Tail people coming in. Then you get all 5 of the Sabertooth people, and like I said, the matchups were pretty obvious. You know, it's obviously going to be Sting versus Natsu, Rogue versus Grey, which is the only reason Rogue versus Gajeel. Sorry, the only reason Grey is there is to fight Rufus, because he defeated him with his memory make magic in the very first game of Hidden at the beginning. Olga versus Laxus, and they both use electricity, and Minerva versus Urza. So then we see the villains of the arc, the high officials, Arcadius, and he says that Eclipse is going to begin in a couple of days. We don't really know what Eclipse does. It's something to do with Zeref, as always. But yeah, Lord Zeref is waiting. I mean, the last we saw of Zeref was when he blew up Hades' battleship after Acnologia arrived, which is interesting because at the end of this chapter we see Acnologia, the Black Dragon of the Apocalypse, doing battle with what looks like a mage. But it's just like a tablet. And apparently the Grand Magic Games used to be called Ryusei, which apparently means the banquet of dragons, humans, and demons. And that's where the chapter ends. So, does this mean we're going to see Acnologia again? Is he going to come in to signal the end of yet another era? I sincerely doubt Fairy Tail's going to go through the whole time skip getting wiped off the face of the planet thing again, like with Tenro Island. But if he does arrive, he's obviously going to bring Zeref with him in some manner or form. So yeah, this was a good chapter. The art was good. The matchups were a little bit predictable, but the battles should be entertaining. Fairy Tail's probably going to come up on top, although I expect whatever plan the villains have is going to interfere at some point or another. So yeah, what did you think of the chapter? Leave your comments in the section below. And, well, yeah, see you later.